from an airplane. Plus,
now they're using a curriculum literally from another century.
it was a big issue in the provincial election, what kids learn in sex ed class. Now the issue is before the courts. And a father and his newborn twins home at last. But it wasn't an easy journey. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. A Mississauga woman is a little wary about going to sleep tonight. That's after a ball of ice barreled through her roof this morning, nearly hitting her as she slept in bed. Her roof has been temporarily patched up this evening. But as Natalie Nanowski tells us, questions still remain about where the ice came from.
This is very solid.
Yes,
like it's not,
yeah.
Chunks of ice that, if pieced together, are about the size of a volleyball.
When he hit the floor, then he must have broke down. He
Yeah.
had to, yeah.
For sure, because
I don't think it would have come in pieces like that.
At 6:30 this morning, Carmela Kakovo heard a loud bang coming from her walk-in closet.
At first, I thought it was maybe raccoon that damaged the attic, and I was scared, like maybe they're gonna jump on me. But then my younger son came, and he looked at it, and we started picking up ice. Where this ice could come?
The ice tore through her roof. Together, the pieces weigh nearly 5 pounds. Too big to be hail, the family believes the ice fell from a plane.
With the speed to break the roof, the wood, and
Yeah, that's the only explanation.
that was the only explanation that we can come up with.
Things have fallen from planes before, from ice to metal to poop, landing in this Mississauga pool 6 years ago. The Canadian Federal Pilots Association says the most common cause of falling liquid or ice is a leak from the lavatory. Thankfully, since this ice is white and not blue, it likely didn't come from the toilet. But for the family, all that matters is no one was injured, because where the ice fell is only a meter away from where Carmela was sleeping.
We consider ourselves very lucky, yes. We actually want to go and play a lottery ticket.
The Greater Toronto Airport Authorities says it's not responsible for falling debris, and police can't do anything because the matter isn't criminal. Transport Canada does investigate incidents like this. They told us that they haven't yet received a complaint, but they're urging the family to send one in. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Mississauga.
A developing story we're following at this hour. One person has been taken to hospital after a shooting in Rexdale. It happened in the area of Islington Avenue and Elmhurst Drive around 9:25 this evening. We don't know the extent of the victim's injuries. A large area, as you can see, has been roped off while police investigate. Officers believe up to 4 suspects may have fled the area. A court case over the repeal of Ontario's sex ed curriculum will continue tomorrow, with the province's lawyers arguing the case should be dismissed. Today, critics of the government's removal of the modernized curriculum argued that move was unlawful. Lorenda Redekop has more.
Changes to sex ed teaching has sparked anger and protests, and today the issue headed to court.
We had a homophobic curriculum for many years in many provinces across Canada. It finally got updated in Ontario recently, and then the new government changed it, and now they're using a curriculum literally from another century.
The Canadian Civil Liberties Association argues the government puts some students at risk by taking out any teaching on same-sex relationships or consent, particularly endangering LGBTQ students and girls.
When governments act contrary to the needs and rights of its citizens, then court cases like ours are absolutely necessary.
Sex ed classes also no longer teach the youngest students the anatomical names for their body parts. Plus, the government initially started a snitch line people could call if teachers stuck with the 2015 curriculum.
The government's mishandling of the health and physical education curriculum has had a chilling effect on teachers' abilities to teach the curriculum in an equitable, diverse, and inclusive way. And this will have a detrimental impact on students and their ability to make safe choices.
In court today, union lawyers said this isn't a case about the curriculum itself, but the government's motivation for the switch, citing words used by the PCs when talking about the previous curriculum, including in the throne speech.
And replacing failed ideological experiments in the classroom.
The 3 judges questioned these examples. One called it hot air people hear from politicians, but not necessarily a legal issue. The government wants this whole case dismissed and says sex ed will be based on the world kids live in.
But obviously things like sexting and texting and bullying, these remain very, very important.
Tomorrow, the lawyers for the government will present their case. It's unknown exactly when the 3-judge panel will release its ruling. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontario's Finance Minister Vic Fedeli has served former PC leader Patrick Brown and his publisher with a notice of intent to sue. That's over statements in Brown's recent book that a political staffer had accused Fedeli of sexual misconduct.
My first reaction, of course, what a hypocrite.
That is how Brown described his reaction when Fedeli later became interim party leader after Brown himself faced sexual misconduct allegations and resigned. Brown, as you'll recall, is now mayor of Brampton. Fedeli's notice demands a retraction and an apology. Now, Brown said in a text message that he finds it, quote, perplexing, as the CBC has already independently verified that a complaint was indeed made. In his book, Brown says the woman didn't want an investigation and that her allegations were never tested in court. According to a new report, there's a new quick way to double the vacancy rate in Toronto. That's by getting Airbnb to follow the City of Toronto's rules around which types of homes qualify for short-term rentals. Now, that would mean it would need to pull thousands of listings from its site. Farah Morali tells us why it's in no hurry to do so.
Amenities, hardwood floor, amazing.
At OCAD University, it's not hard to find people struggling to find a place to rent in this city.
For the amount that you're paying, it's just really not good conditions, or like there's rats infested in the community in the area, or bed bugs.
There's nothing cheaper than $1,700. It's out of every budget I've ever had. I can't afford any of it.
Everything's so expensive in Toronto.
A big issue, as always, is supply. Today, a new report found that Airbnb has pulled thousands of homes from the rental market.
According to the report, there are 19,255 Airbnb listings in the city of Toronto. The numbers show that 42% would be considered non-compliant under the City of Toronto's short-term housing rules. That's a little more than 8,200. Of those units, it found that 6,500 homes could be added to the city's long-term rental supply, which it claims would double the vacancy rate in the city.
Airbnb should abide by the council rules and delist all the non-compliant host listings today. Just do it.
The City of Toronto voted to restrict short-term rentals to private residences in 2017. Airbnb said it would follow the new rules, but that was appealed by Airbnb hosts and is now up in the air.
Airbnb said from the get-go that they were prepared to work with the City of Toronto and would abide by our rules. So don't play this out in the courts.
It's a relatively sizable number when we look at the size of Toronto's rental market.
When we're talking about affordability, how much of a difference do you see this making if those units that Airbnb is talking about were introduced into the rental market?
Yeah, I mean, a tight vacancy, like a low vacancy rate, can always have an impact on affordability. Over the long term, though, I mean, in addition to regulating Airbnb, we do need to start building a lot more purpose-built rental units. This is a great short-term fix, but long-term, we do need more rental units out there.
Airbnb, for its part, dismissed the report and the coalition's ties to the hotel industry's main union, saying this report is based on faulty assumptions and poor research, and is yet another example of the well-resourced and clearly biased hotel lobby seeking to villainize families who are making a little extra income by sharing their homes.
Airbnb also said in its statement that it wants to be regulated, but we know that appeal of the city's regulations is still pending. That's not slated to be heard until August, so it's unclear what impetus Airbnb has to do anything until then. Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us with a first look at the forecast. I think I could feel it getting colder when I was outside today, Colette.
Oh, yeah, it was hard to miss it, especially if you got in there into the winds, because those winds strong from the northwest, providing a wind chill. And this is really just the beginning of it. And I guess it says something about me that it's only just starting these few days that we're going to see of this very Arctic air, cold air mass in place. And I'm already trying to see when do we get out of it. So this is just kind of a look at our 7-day temperature trend to give you an idea. And this is closer to where we should be for this time of year, around -2. And through the period, we're going to find those numbers. These are the afternoon highs. Definitely on the cool side, but as we get towards Monday, starts to get a little milder, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, that's getting pretty far out there, but it looks like the temperatures will be coming up above seasonal. So next few days, definitely on the cold side. Because of the winds, we're seeing a bit of lake effect stuff back to the northwest of us and over towards London, and from beyond there, you could still see it. Otherwise, the scattered flurries moving out for us overnight tonight, and then we're just going to see kind of a mix of sun and cloud through the day tomorrow, but -6 for the low tonight, and tomorrow afternoon, take a look at the temperature. It doesn't change, and with those winds driving in here still strong, it's going to feel like about -14. We'll take a look at some of those other wind chills, Mike, when I come back.
All right, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
After a 36-hour flight, a single father who ran into some immigration complications overseas is now at home with his 2 new baby girls. Joseph Tito was left in a lurch in Kenya, where his babies were born through surrogacy, after he learned about a change to immigration laws that meant his daughters would not automatically become Canadian citizens like he thought they would. Talia Ricci has the story.
Twins.
From finding out the big news to selecting the perfect stroller for 2, Toronto blogger and new dad Joseph Tito has taken thousands of people on his journey through single fatherhood.
I'm just so happy that they're together and we're here and we're home.
Including a major roadblock. Tito says he was shocked to learn that because he was born in Italy, his new babies Stella and Mia would not so easily slide into Canadian citizenship.
Before I even started this journey, I looked into it. I contacted the embassy, I contacted my clinic, I contacted lawyers. I did all my research, and then I paid for everything 3 weeks before that, and then all of a sudden it was, okay, well, you can't go. So I was just floored.
An amendment was made to the Citizen Act in 2015 that says a baby born outside of Canada to a Canadian citizen automatically receives citizenship status. But this ends after the first generation.
I think it felt like a movie. I didn't think it was real.
As a self-proclaimed details-oriented man, Tito says he was on top of all of his paperwork and was blindsided by this law. Now he's hoping his story will help other parents going through the process and hopes to see the law changed.
I understand why it was put into place, but I think it needs to be amended for a lot of people that live in Canada.
But for now, he has some pretty important tasks to tend to.
Feed them, bathe them in fresh water, and put them to bed in their nursery.
Earlier, I spoke with an immigration lawyer on the phone, and he says he hasn't come across too many clients with this issue, and he thinks that might partly be because this law only affects people who were born after February 14th, 1977. Still, he believes that as more cases like this occur, there is a greater likelihood that the law could change. CBC Toronto reached out to Canadian Immigration for comment on whether they are considering changing this law, and we didn't receive a response. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
A woman died in one of their clothing donation bins, and now the company that makes them and others like it are trying to make sure that it never happens again. Well, that story for you next. We are learning more about the 2 people found dead in an apartment building at Birchmount, south of St. Clair yesterday. Police say a 40-year-old woman was found on the ground outside the building. A 30-year-old woman was found inside an 8th-floor apartment. Investigators have not released the causes of the deaths or the relationship between the 2 people, but they say they are considering this a possible murder-suicide. The safety of clothing donation bins are being reviewed after that tragic story we told you about yesterday, a woman who got stuck in one and later died. Our Ali Chasson spoke with one manufacturer of the bins who was so bothered by the news, it's now working to make them safer.
So I'm at Rangeview Fabricating here in Hamilton. The bin that Crystal died in yesterday was manufactured here. Less than 48 hours after her death, Rangeview sent a tutorial urging their charity partners to disconnect the anti-theft flap. They invited us inside to show us how they're trying to take the lead in the industry and change it. How do you feel when you hear about it and you find out, ugh, it was one of ours?
Yeah, it's puts a lump in your throat. The only thing you can do is do the best you can to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And then once we can take care of ourselves, then we can look at other manufacturers and other companies, and hopefully they'll follow suit.
Mm-hmm. So this is one of the bins that still has the bars here. Can you show us what the other ones look like when that's removed?
Sure.
Okay.
So once the bar is removed, now the other thing we've done is, even though there's no linkages, we've also talked to the industry, and a warning label doesn't mean anything if somebody's trying to get in there.
Yeah.
But we're putting them on there anyways.
Now without the bars, it's just
without the bars, it's just a flap that hangs, keeps the weather out a little bit.
When you consider how many bins there are and how long they've been around.
Well, we went 20 years without an incident, right? And so you think everything's great. And you don't have a reason to suspect that there's a potential of injury or anything like that. And all of a sudden you wake up one day and something happens, and then that causes you to go back and say, we have to look at everything again. The goals and aims and the hearts of the industry is to help other people in the first place. So you'd be hypocritical if you didn't
mitigate the risk. So far, we know that the charity Children's Wish is in the process of dismantling all of the anti-theft guards in their bins, but we know that there are thousands more of that make and model across Canada right now. Ali Chasson, CBC News, Hamilton.
Toronto police are investigating dozens of car break-ins that have been happening near St. Clair and Bathurst. Residents in the area say it's happening almost daily, no matter what they do. Greg Ross spoke to those residents today.
The community is definitely on high alert.
Mark Vendramini says he was about to head into work a few weeks ago when he realized his car had been broken into while parked in the laneway behind his house.
And I looked in from the other side and I saw everything spewed on both my seats.
He says after smashing his passenger window, the thieves rifled through his glove box and center console.
At the end of the day, what did they get away with?
Some change. I don't know what they saw that interested them. They ended up getting away with about $1.75 and change.
It cost Vendramini $450 in repairs. Several of Vendramini's neighbors have made similar complaints to police, which led to the arrest of a 45-year-old man last Friday. Residents tell us that the break-ins have continued even after the arrest, and fresh piles of broken glass from car windows like this one can be found throughout the area.
That happened on Friday night. My sister's car was broken into on Saturday night. So there's definitely more than one person involved.
People are sick of it, they're scared, and they want some answers.
Ward 12 City Councillor Josh Matlow has been fielding complaints from several residents. Now he's ready to take action, calling for a public meeting between members of the community and police.
But I think it's time for the police to come out to the community, discuss what they're able to share about the investigation, but also what people can do to both protect themselves, but also to responsibly contribute to the police's investigation.
One woman tried posting this sign in her window saying there was nothing of value in the car, then posted this picture to a community Facebook group. Another man created a map that shows where dozens of these break-ins are alleged to have taken place. Councillor Matlow plans to use it at his public meeting.
So that I can put it right in front of the unit commander of 13 Division.
Matlow says he recently spoke with that unit commander on the phone, and they plan to meet face-to-face in the next few days, and that's when they hope to set a firm date for this public meeting. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
There's a live shot from of the CN Tower for you tonight. Can't see the temperatures falling, but trust us, they are. Colette will tell you just how chilly the next few mornings are going to feel when we come back.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Colette Kennedy's back with the extended forecast. Time to brace ourselves for that cold snap.
Yes, we do need to brace ourselves because we've got a few days here with this Arctic air in place, and the wind's still strong, not only like today, but even tomorrow the winds aren't going to back off that much, just about 5 kilometers an hour less in terms of some of the gusts, so wind chill significant. A quick look at your almanac, and average low at this time of year is -10, so really we're actually just getting kind of closer to that with our overnight lows. By the way, on this date in history, 1999, there was 30 centimeters of snow on the ground, so we've got cold air in place, but not a ton of snow. Where we've been seeing some heavier amounts due to those northwesterly winds coming through, or some of the lake effect stuff coming off of Georgian Bay and Lake Huron. Otherwise, it's been those scattered flurries that are moving out through the overnight hours. And then tomorrow, kind of a mix of sun and cloud that we'll be seeing throughout the day for the GTA. So at least some drier conditions, and actually setting us up for some sunshine, some decent sunshine as we get towards the end of the week. So that's the good news here. And towards southwestern Ontario, well, I don't know if it's bad news, but it's definitely this cooler air. So -6 overnight tonight. A few areas still seeing some of that flurry activity. Otherwise, drier conditions. Highs tomorrow -3 to -5. Feeling more like about -10 because of the winds. And again, tomorrow the wind's still strong. Tonight we're looking at them gusting to 50 kilometers an hour. -5 to -8 for the GTA with some scattered flurries moving out. And then see how they back off. Only a little bit tomorrow in terms of the gusts, won't be quite as strong. So temperatures really don't make much of a change through the daytime hours from where they're going to be in the morning hours. So let's kind of walk you through this the next few days, because there's that daytime high I just mentioned of -6 tomorrow, but -12 Thursday night into Friday morning. With significant winds, though, Friday morning is going to feel like about -20. So really keep that in mind as you're heading out the door or getting the younger ones ready to head out the door as well. Friday morning is going to be a chilly one, but at least there's that sunshine, so nice sky conditions. The high Friday only -7. Another cold night Friday night into Saturday. So we start the day off chilly, more cloud cover Saturday with the chance of seeing some flurries through here. Saturday night into Sunday. Also pretty chilly, temperatures even a couple of degrees below seasonal values. Sunshine Sunday, Monday, but it's not till Monday till the temperatures start to rise, getting up there closer to seasonal values. And like I started earlier in the show, showing you Tuesday, Wednesday, they might actually get above, Mike.
But we have to get through the weekend first. Okay, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
An Ottawa man is the latest Canadian to appear on Jeopardy this week, and he was on a winning streak at defending champion, at least until last night's show.
A returning champion, a policy analyst from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, Zorn Pink, whose one-day cash winnings total $7,400.
Unfortunately, last night didn't go as well for Zorn Pink, who's a civil servant in Ottawa. Well, he got the final Jeopardy question right. It wasn't enough. So did everyone else. He came in third place. Don't feel too bad for him, though. Over 2 days, he won $8,400. Consider that before taxes, that works out to over $11,000 Canadian. Not a bad haul. Well, before we go, another Canadian seeking his fortune in the U.S. will be on cue tomorrow. Malcolm Gladwell, author of bestsellers like The Tipping Point or Blink, is now talking about his latest podcast. It's called Broken Record, and it focuses on music. You can hear that on cue tomorrow at 10 a.m. on CBC Radio 1. I'll see you back here tomorrow night on CBC Television at 11 o'clock. Good night.